Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm on Your Side with me, Sierra Boudreau. Happy Sunday, or whatever day it is you're listening to this. But I do notice that a lot of you guys listen on Sundays, which I love, because I assume you're listening to it while you're running errands, or cleaning, or just hanging out, whatever you're doing. I do appreciate that you listen to it the day it comes out. Figured that we would do a short and sweet episode this week. We're going to skip the recap, because really I have nothing exciting to tell you guys. I feel like my life these past couple of weeks has just looked like a lot of work and a lot of spending time with friends, which has been lovely and wonderful, but no extreme updates for you guys, except I'm still watching This Is Us. I can't remember if last week I told you guys that I was watching This Is Us, which has just been a really tough follow-up after one day, like one emotional wreck after the other. One day devastated me and left me sobbing on the floor, and This Is Us is doing the same thing. And if you're not familiar with This Is Us, it's a show that was on NBC, I think, one of those networks a while ago, and it ended a couple years ago. So good if you haven't seen it, but if you want to be absolutely wrecked and devastated every week, then This Is Us is actually perfect for you. So that's what I've been watching, and I think that's mostly it. So we can go ahead and get into the episode, which, as you can tell by the title, this is the episode to listen to when you are just lacking motivation and you feel like you can't get anything done, you feel like you don't know what your next step is, and you just feel kind of like lost in the shuffle of it all. So let's get into it. I think first off, when we're experiencing a very big lack of motivation and we feel like we can't get anything done, nothing feels interesting or exciting, because I know that when I need to get something done, it really helps if I'm stimulated by that thing or excited about that thing. And some things are just like tedious tasks that you need to do, like your taxes or mopping your floor, and you feel like you don't have the motivation to do it. Then understand that yes, they can be daunting, and yes, they feel like they take a long time. When you actually time it out, it doesn't usually take a long time. Taxes do take quite a while, but everything else, like you look at this big task and you're like, okay, I have to get it done and I'm going to budget an hour for it, but I don't have an hour today, and I don't even think I have an hour this week. But you actually get around to doing it and you find that the task takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, and you're like, oh, I wish so bad that I had just done that earlier when I first needed to do it. But having empathy for that, understanding that maybe you were overwhelmed that week, or maybe you were exhausted that week, or maybe you just genuinely didn't have the time that week, and reminding yourself that if it didn't get done at that time, it probably didn't need to. The things that need to get done will get done, and the things that don't probably didn't need to in the time frame you thought that they did. That's not to say never do that thing. It's not to say never complete those tasks. It's just to say that sometimes you need to redelegate things to a time that makes more sense, and not to put too much stress or pressure on yourself because you didn't get it done when it first popped up on your to-do list. I've been really struggling with motivation lately, and I think that a lot of it stems from the fact that I've just been feeling really overwhelmed and really stretched thin, because I have quite a hard time asking for help, and I have a really hard time delegating tasks. I'm getting better at it. I am getting better at it. The clips that you guys see on my TikTok or Instagram, I hired someone to help me do those, and she's incredible, and they look really good. Thank you, Libby. And I recently hired someone to edit my YouTube videos, because I don't mind filming myself. Obviously, it's part of my job to film myself, but the editing of the YouTube videos just seemed like a really daunting and big task to me. And I have to remind myself that it is okay to not have every skill in the world. It is okay if I'm not great at everything. I'm really great at what I'm great at, and I can delegate the things that I'm not great at. And that doesn't make me less of an influencer. It doesn't make me less of an employee. It doesn't make me less of a friend. Whatever it may be that I'm delegating, it just means that I have strengths and weaknesses, and it's okay to play to those. I think the thing about motivation is that it comes at times and it goes at times, and we have to really focus on not beating ourselves up for the times that it goes. We have to really focus on not beating ourselves up for the times that we struggle to get out of bed, or we struggle to get things done, or we struggle to move on to the next task. And as you guys know, I have ADHD, and for a long time I was really hard on myself when things wouldn't get done in the time frame that I thought they were supposed to. Not even the time frame that they were assigned to me, but the time frame that I put on a task myself. Things wouldn't get done in that time frame, and I'd be really hard on myself and be like, well, why can't you just do it? Lo and behold, there's a reason I couldn't just do it, and that reason is ADHD, and that's okay. And just because I'm medicated now doesn't mean that I'm just gonna be able to wake up one day and get everything done and feel right on top of it and feel like my ADHD is out the window, a thing of the past. That's just not how it works, because I also have 25 years of learned behaviors, because I've had to learn to live with this ADHD. I've had to learn to figure it out, and some things I just learned to do differently, and I have to unlearn those things in order to make room for a better way to do them. And that takes time, and that takes patience, and that takes grace with myself, which I do deserve those things because I'm a human being, and you do deserve those things. ADHD or not, you deserve time and grace and patience with yourself simply because you're keeping yourself alive, and that is already really fucking hard sometimes. I think that sometimes we don't have the motivation to get certain things done. We don't have the motivation to go to our workout class. We don't have the motivation to cook ourselves a meal. We don't have the motivation to excel at our job or whatever it may be. And that's where discipline comes in, which is a really tough pill to swallow sometimes. That just because you're not always motivated doesn't mean that's an excuse for things to just not happen, right? Sometimes we need to be disciplined. And I learned that lesson, I think, a couple of years ago. And the prime example, I made a TikTok about this a couple of years ago, but I still remember it today, where I was like, I don't have the motivation to go to my workout class. I don't have the desire to go to my spin class, right? But I made a promise to myself. I made a commitment to myself, and I deserve to honor commitments I make to myself, because if I can't trust myself, then how do I expect other people to honor commitments to me? How do I expect other people to show up for me when they say they're going to? If I don't hold myself to that standard, how can I hold other people to that standard? Which can be really hard. And I understand that can be really hard, and it takes time, and it takes patience, and it takes discipline, right? At the end of the day, you have to train yourself to show up for yourself. You have to train yourself to honor yourself. And it's not always going to be super easy. I think that sometimes we are lucky enough to have these spurts of motivation, right? These days, these weeks, maybe even these months where we are getting after it and we're ready to go and we're riding that high of motivation. And then at some point, that kind of wanes and it ebbs and it flows. You go down, you go up. That's just how motivation goes. And in the times that it goes down, discipline comes in. And discipline is something you can work on even when you're in these high highs of motivation. Discipline in the little things. Discipline like, okay, I said that I was going to take the dogs on a mile-long walk today, and so I'm going to do that, because not only am I honoring that commitment to myself, I'm honoring that commitment to my dogs. And I know your dogs aren't going to talk back to you, and it's not really a big deal, but it's a great way to practice, right? Because they're not going to talk back to you. It's not really a huge deal if you take them for a half a mile walk instead of a mile-long walk. At the end of the day, they're happy with being outside. They're happy with getting to sniff. They're happy with getting to walk. But you said you were going to do something, and so you do it. It doesn't have to be you wake up one day and you're like, okay, I have all the discipline in the world and I'm ready to tackle everything even if I don't feel like it, and I'm on top of the world. It's just like not really how it works. And I think we have to give ourselves grace and understanding that that's just not really how it works. I think that it's really tough because we spend a lot of time online, right? And it looks like online, everyone is waking up at 5 a.m. Everyone is going to their Pilates class and following that up with a 2-mile run. And then they're coming home and they're showering and they're doing their 10-step skincare routine. And then they're getting into their perfect work from home outfit that's a mix between casual and elevated somehow. And they have the perfect gold hoops and the perfect jewelry. And they're sitting down at their perfect desk and they're doing their great job that they really like so much. And you see those little glimpses of their day. And it looks like, oh, they have enough time to make lunch, and they have enough time to go on an afternoon walk, and then they have enough time to log off and have dinner with their friends and feel perfectly happy and wonderful all day, because we're seeing the highlight reels, right? We're seeing what they want us to see, which is not a fault. I think that Instagram and TikTok and all of that stuff can be, in a way, an art form, and we have to look at it like an art form. But we have to understand that not all art is the reality, that not every day looks like that for them, and not every day, or even most days, are going to look like that for us, and that's okay. Just because we see it online doesn't mean we have to take that and directly apply it to our own life. And while those are great things to strive for, I'm a big advocate for eating lunch away from your desk. I'm a big advocate for getting outside during the workday. I'm a big advocate for moving your body in a way that feels good to you. But ultimately, that requires a lot of discipline. That requires a lot of effort, and sometimes it's motivation. Sometimes these people are just really highly motivated for whatever they're doing these things for better connections, for a better connection with their body, for better connections with their friends, for better connections with themselves. Maybe they're really motivated by that, but sometimes they are just purely disciplined, and that is a really hard thing to grasp without any practice. A couple episodes ago, the Depression of It All episode, I was telling you guys how I was just like in a really low place, and I felt like it was really hard to do anything. Like it was really hard to get out of bed. It was really hard to do anything besides listen to Funeral by Phoebe Bridgers and just kind of sob in bed. That's just a place that I was in. And I talked to you guys all about it. And I think that that's one clear example of like, I didn't have the motivation to record the podcast. I didn't have the motivation to make TikToks or Instagram reels or stories, but I had the discipline and I understood that I had to do it because I had to do it. And please do not take this as me saying, even if you're in a depressive episode, you have to work and you have to grind. That's not what I'm saying. But the reality of a lot of our jobs is that our jobs go on whether we're emotionally there or not. Sometimes things just have to get done. And I made the commitment to having a podcast episode for you guys once a week. And so I had to sit down and do it. That said, I gave myself a lot of room to be honest. I gave you guys a podcast episode that wasn't a lie, that wasn't fluff, that wasn't just joy and fun and sunshine and rainbows. It was like, this is what I'm going through. And I had the discipline to give you guys an episode because I said I was going to give you guys an episode, and to honor a commitment I made to myself because I said I was going to do this for myself as well, and sit down and in that get to be very honest with you guys and form a deeper connection with you guys in a way that we wouldn't have had if I lied or even if I skipped a week. You know what I mean? I think that sometimes we have to look at the things that we're doing and saying, okay, maybe I'm not super motivated to do this. Maybe I don't want to do this, but I'm doing this because I said I was going to do it, and that holds value. And ultimately, we talk about our future selves a lot. We talked about our future selves last week and doing things for our future selves. Our future selves are waiting for our right now selves to show up. Our future selves are expecting and waiting for our right now selves to do what we said we were going to do what needs to be done. And sometimes we are so motivated to get to that future self. We are so excited and so eager, and we're going to do anything we possibly can. And sometimes we feel kind of removed from that, right? Because we don't know how distant that future self is. We don't know if it's right around the corner, or we don't know if it's 5 years from now. We just know that one day we want to get to this thing, this place in our lives. And sometimes that means even when we don't want to, we have to do the little things or the medium things or the really big things. But I tell you guys all the time, small steps every day lead to huge overarching changes. The little things that you do, the little commitments that you honor to yourself are huge for your future self because they can be a catalyst to even bigger things. It's not about waking up one day and changing your entire life and getting after everything and being the best version of yourself every single day. I know I'm not the best version of myself every single day. Some days I am not even a good version of myself. But when I look at the average of my weeks, when I look at the average of my months, I am getting better every single time. And it's not about every single day being perfect. It's about trying your best on the days that you have the energy to. And I think what really helps with motivation is making a plan and writing a list. Like, these are the things that I want to do, and these are the reasons why. I think it's really easy to lack motivation and to get out of the swing of things when you don't really actually know why you're wanting to do them, what you're trying to achieve. You're just doing them maybe because you saw it online, or you see your friends do it, or you think maybe this will lead to something good. Actually writing it down and getting serious about the reason you want to do the things you want to do really helps create that drive and that passion for it and actually get after it. I think that when I look at myself and the life that I want to live, it is really easy to say, okay, well, maybe I can do this thing, and then maybe that'll lead to this thing, and be disappointed when it doesn't work out. But I didn't actually create a plan of action. I think that I really would love to write a book one day. I want to write a book so bad. And having this podcast and expressing my long form thoughts is a way to get to writing that book, right? I can't just say one day I'm going to write this book, but I'm not going to do anything to actually get there. I'm just going to hope it falls into my lap, because more often than not, things don't fall out of the sky. I think that more often than not, things happen for us because we've worked really hard for them. And I think with manifestation, it's this idea, people get really confused and they're like, well, you can't just think things into existence. And I am not an expert on manifestation. I'm really interested in it and I would love to learn more about it. But what I do think about manifestation is that it works so well because the core of manifestation is love for yourself. I am committing these thoughts to myself. I am committing to thinking these very positive thoughts. I am committing to thinking the very best of myself in my circumstance. I am committing to believing that I can achieve the things that I want to achieve. I'm committing to believing I will have the things that I want. And that's love. I think that if you don't love yourself or care for yourself, it is really, really hard to sit down and start manifesting. It is really, really hard to sit down and look at your life and say, okay, it's this right now, but I fully believe it can be that, and I'm going to work for it to be that. I think that manifestation really has a core root in love, and loving yourself and caring for yourself also leads to that really important key part, which is discipline. And I think another really big key component is taking breaks. I say it to you guys all the time that we need breaks, we deserve breaks. I think that if you're running yourself ragged day in and day out trying to achieve this goal for, sometime down the line, and you're not taking any breaks, you're not taking any time off, you're going to burn out before you can reasonably get there. Because I think the thought process is, okay, if I work really hard at this every single day for 3 months, then in 3 months I'll be there. But we're not accounting for the burnout we're going to feel, or the exhaustion that we're going to feel, or the stress or anxiety we're going to feel, which is inevitable when you don't take any breaks and take the time to slow down and care for yourself. Some days you're going to be able to go after it full steam ahead. And some days you're going to have to say, okay, I don't have it today. I don't have it today, and I think I'll have it tomorrow, and I'll get back after it tomorrow. And the key thing here is listening to your body. Right? If your body doesn't feel like you're respecting it or resting enough or giving it what it needs, it's going to shut down for you. I think we've all been there. Like, I think any time in the past, maybe 3 years that I've gotten really, really sick, it's because I did not listen to my body and slow down. When I worked corporate, it was a couple months before I left my corporate job. I got super, super sick out of nowhere. And it was a slow build up. It was like, okay, guys, I'm not really feeling too great. I'm going to be camera off, to like, hey, I need to take the next couple of days off because I am sick. It was pretty bad. I didn't leave bed. And I think that happened because I was running myself ragged, trying to excel in my corporate job and trying to excel with social media and trying to excel in my personal relationships. And I didn't give myself any time to actually rest. I didn't prioritize it or value it, which ended up biting me back because I couldn't do anything for those days. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't record any videos. I couldn't really see my friends. Obviously, I could see my friends. I was sick, but I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. So I was working so hard to achieve this goal, and I ended up putting myself further and further back because I didn't factor in reasonable rest days. And I think a lot of us do that. We are so afraid of resting because we think if we take time off, then we're going to lose the motivation. We're going to lose the drive. But I think it's quite the opposite. Taking time off because you realize you deserve it and you do need it allows you to come back in with more energy, more excitement, more eagerness, because you know what it's like to run after it when you have the energy to do it, and you know what it's like to rest when you don't have the energy. And resting is not bad. Taking time off is not bad. I think that when I first started running, I was telling you guys about my running journey. I was running every day, miles a day, and I was so afraid of stopping because I was like, if I stop, then maybe I'll never run again. And first of all, God forbid, if I don't want to run anymore, I stop running. Like, it's not a big deal, right? I do have a goal. I have a plan. I would love to run a half marathon, but understanding that there's an ebb and flow to these things. If I take a couple of days off, which I have, that is actually not bad, because I know when I step back outside and I start running again, it's going to feel really good, and it's going to feel like a welcome home, a welcome back, rather than all right, well, we're here again and we have to push through it. Every run, every whatever it may be for you, shouldn't be a fight. There should be joy in it. But there is no joy in something when it is literally all you're thinking about, all you're doing, all you're committing time to without any rest, without any breaks. If you're meant to come back to it, you will come back to it, no matter how much time you've taken off from it. One of the habits that I really try to build up is journaling. I love journaling. I've been journaling for most of my life. I have all of my journals in my apartment, and they're super important to me. That said, I used to journal every day. Growing up, I would journal every day, multiple times a week, and now I journal maybe once every couple of weeks, sometimes once a month. I think I have one journal entry for all of February, and it was like a couple of sentences, and I share that because with journaling, it is such a good habit and something really, really important to get into if you want to know yourself more and want to be able to reflect on your own actions and your own behaviors and move that into something better so that you can develop and grow and all of that good stuff. I think journaling is a really great practice, but if you force yourself to do it and you really don't feel connected to it at all, eventually you're going to fall out of it, rather than saying, okay, I'm really into it this week and I'm going to do it this week, and next week maybe I'll do one entry, or maybe I'll do a couple of entries, and then the next week maybe I won't journal at all. Because like I'm saying, at the end of the day, when it's meant for you to do, you're going to come back to it. Journaling isn't for everyone. Running isn't for everyone. Whatever it may be isn't for everyone. But if it's for you, you're not going to lose it, and that is a guarantee. The best way I found to find motivation is to do the things that I really care about, the things that I really like. Anytime I've tried to force myself to do something that I didn't really like just because I thought I should be doing it, I have fallen out of it and never come back to to it, which is what I was just saying. If it's not meant for you, you're going to fall away from it. But you wonder and you criticize yourself. It's like, why don't I have the motivation to get that thing done? Why don't I have the motivation to get to the gym 5 times a week and lift super heavy weights? It's like, maybe you actually don't like lifting super heavy weights. Maybe lifting super heavy weights isn't the most ideal and practical workout for you. The best way to be motivated, I think, is to find the things that you enjoy doing and lean into those. I am more often than not motivated to go to my spin classes. I love my spin classes. I find a lot of joy in going to my spin classes. I'm motivated to do those things. And when I'm not motivated, I have discipline. And I have discipline because I have a lot of practice and being disciplined and showing up even when it doesn't feel like the best time in the world. And I really, truly don't know a lot of times that I've regret a workout. I'm sure there have been. And I think the times that I've regret a workout has come when I was doing something that actually didn't feel good to me that I thought I should do because I wanted this perfect body, this perfect physique. I wanted to look great doing it. Like, anytime I've tried lifting weights, I have fallen out of it. I don't like lifting weights. Like, I don't really find a lot of joy in it. I did it, and anytime I've done it, it's because I wanted my body to look a certain way, because weightlifting does influence your body to look a certain way. But ultimately, I think that wanting my body to look a certain way comes second to me doing the things that I actually enjoy. Doing the things that I actually enjoy is all the more worthwhile to me than lifting these weights so that I can wear this size pant. Like, okay, you wear that size jeans and then what? Like, and you are still you, no matter what size jeans you wear. And I don't want to get into the habit of going against myself, doing things that I don't like just so that I can appear different to other people. I don't ever want to get to this jean size or this idea or this place in my life and look back and think about all the work it took to get there and realize I didn't enjoy any of it. I think that we have such a limited amount of time, right? Like, it is so limited. And at the end of the day, I don't want to spend all of my time doing things that I really don't enjoy doing just so that I can say I got to this place, because that place probably won't even be fulfilling. The things that you want you to. You are not going to miss it. It's impossible to miss it, right? So in these moments where you don't feel any motivation and you don't feel any discipline, you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. Just know that you're going to get there. It is meant for you to get there. Your wants are not wasted. The energy that you put into these things are not wasted. And I think that takes a lot of the stress and a lot of the anxiety, at least off of me, knowing that I'm not going to miss the things meant for me. I think I've said this in like every episode because I think it is such an important thing to remember. And once you realize that the things that really are meant for you, it is impossible to miss. I have given myself a lot more grace. I have been exponentially kinder to myself because I realized no matter what I do, I really am not going to get in my own way. At the end of my life, I'm going to look back and everything that was meant to happen will have happened, and I'll know that because it did. And a big thing I like to do to influence motivation or even help discipline along is to reward myself. I love a little treat. You guys know I love a little treat. I talk about it frequently. I love a little treat. Giving yourself a reward when you do that thing, complete that task, helps you do it so much more rather than just saying, okay, I did it and then it's done. It's like, I did it and then I get this, and I did it and then I get to do that. And it's not necessarily having to be this like financial thing. It's like sometimes I will make plans with my friends for after I have to do something, because I know the only way that I can spend that time with my friends is if I get that thing done. Like, for example, today I have to record the podcast, and so I know once I'm done with the podcast, I get to spend tonight with Alex, and I don't have to be stressed about recording it later or editing it later. I know that I record it, I edit it, it's done, and now I get the next few days to really enjoy being with him on his days off. You know what I mean? Like, that's a reward to me. Rewarding yourself when you do something that's difficult or hard that you don't really want to do, I think is the way to go, because ultimately it's going to get done anyway. But if it gets done and you get a little treat at the end of it, it makes you that much more willing and that much more excited to get the next thing done, because you know at the end of the day, you are going to reward yourself for it, and you deserve that reward because you've worked hard for it. And I'm a really big visual person, and I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but this idea of your future self, right? It helps me so much when I'm lacking motivation, and not just thinking of it, not being like, oh, you know, one day I'm going to have this or one day I'm going to do this, but genuinely closing my eyes, meditating, and visualizing the life that I want. Visualizing. Why am I saying visualizing like that? I feel like I'm really enunciating visualizing, and it sounds kind of weird. Does that sound weird to y'all? Don't tell me if it sounds weird to y'all. We're just going to move on. But really sitting down and visualize. I can't take myself seriously, but really sitting down and thinking of, there we go, my future self, how I dress, how I speak, where I live, where I go, where I shop, who I'm friends with, like really thinking about that and understanding that, okay, I need to do certain things today to get there. These things are important because I have this life that I want to live. And while I fully believe I'm going to get there if it's meant for me, I do have to play a key part in that. I have to be actively creating my own life, actively on my own side. Things aren't just going to happen to me. I happen to things. I had this mini series on TikTok called We're Celebrating, and it was just where I would celebrate these very little things or very big things that happen in my life with some kind of treat, some kind of reward, like I talked about earlier, that being really important. But I do want to reiterate, and I think this is going to be my last point because I did want this to be just like a short and sweet episode you can throw on when you're not feeling motivated, not feeling like you know what to do next. But something that really helped me was celebrating the very minor achievements that I've made in my life and realizing that the minor things deserve to be celebrated just as much as the big things. If I celebrate the small things and I get in the practice of celebrating myself, get in the practice of applauding myself and truly patting myself on the back with small things, it'll be a lot easier to do that with the big things, because I know a lot of us really struggle with achieving something or finally getting that dream job, finally doing that dream thing, whatever that big accomplishment may be. And then we have a really hard time celebrating ourselves because we have absolutely no practice in doing it. When something big happens to you, you should be filled to the brim with pride. You should be jumping for joy with how excited you are. And the only way to really learn how to do that is if you celebrate the small things too. And mind you, the small things are equally important as the big things, because without the small things, how did you achieve the big things? I think we have to start asking ourselves, why don't I feel like I'm worth celebrating? Why don't I feel like I deserve my own pride? And why am I so afraid of congratulating myself? I think a lot of that comes from childhood. I think that if you didn't grow up with parents or family members who celebrated you, then you find a really hard time celebrating yourself, and I get that. And now that we're adults and we are the people actively in control of our own lives, it's time to start celebrating. It's time to start taking pride in ourselves for no other reason than simply because we deserve it. So we're not going to be motivated every single day of our lives, and that's okay. When our motivation lacks, our discipline kicks in. And when our discipline lacks, we have to remember that we actually won't miss anything meant for us anyway. And that just gives me a lot of peace, and I hope it gives you a lot of peace too. And I hope that you enjoyed this short and sweet episode. We're going to be back with longer ones, of course. I just wanted to throw in a mix of short ones and long ones because I think that that is fun to do and something to just mix it up. But that's what I have for you guys this week. You're going to be fine this week. It's just going to be over on my TikTok and on my Reels. I'm going to do it direct to camera because I think some of you guys were saying that you're missing that. So I want to bring that back occasionally. So you're going to be fine this week, this Sunday, later today if you're listening to it on Sunday. But I will talk to you next week. I love you so much, and I'm on your side. Mwah.